Welcome to Coffee Break. Thoughtful conversations for a busy world. Let's begin.
But today we're skipping all that. We're doing something a little different. But for a certain kind of person listening right now, I think this is going to feel incredibly familiar.
Maybe even a little too familiar.
Uncomfortably familiar, maybe. We're kind of holding up a mirror today.
And let's be honest, if you're the type of person who was drawn to a title like this, you probably don't have much time for looking in mirrors.
No.
Yeah.
You're too busy. Too busy putting out fires, solving problems, basically holding everyone else's world together.
And that is really the core of what we're getting into today.
It is. I want to start with a question for you, our listener, and not some generic, how's your day going question.
Yeah.
I want you to think for a second about your specific role in your life, in your job, in your family, in your friend group. Are you the go-to person?
And we should probably define go-to, because on the surface, that sounds like a good thing. It sounds like a compliment.
It totally does. It sounds like you're capable, you're respected, you're competent. But let's go a layer deeper.
Okay.
Are you the person who, when the Wi-Fi goes down at the family gathering, everyone just turns and looks at you, even if you don't work in IT?
Or you're the one who always ends up mediating the argument between your siblings because you're the quote-unquote calm one.
Exactly. Or at work, you're the one who absorbs the extra project, who stays late to fix the presentation, who remembers everyone's coffee order, and who carries the entire mental load for a team of, perfectly capable adults.
If you are nodding along right now, or if you just felt that little that familiar knot of tension in your shoulders or your stomach,
then yeah, this deep dive is for you.
We're looking at a whole stack of insights today, but they're all centered around this idea that feels like a superpower but can very quickly become a trap.
The source material we're pulling from is a collection called The Burden of the Dependable Strength. And we're going to focus heavily on one particular breakdown from it, titled The Problem with Always Being the Strong One, which we saw referenced in Coffee Break number 046.
And the core tension here is so interesting because it really pushes back against everything we're taught to believe about success and achievement, especially in Western cultures.
How so?
Well, we're raised to think that capacity is the goal, right?
Yeah.
Be capable, be reliable, be the person people can count on. That's how you win.
Oh, absolutely. If you want something done right, do it yourself. We have all these sayings that drill that into us from a young age.
We do, but what these sources argue is that there's a hidden cost. A kind of competence tax that we rarely talk about until we're on the verge of burnout.
The central idea we're going to unpack is this paradox, and I want to quote it directly because it really is the anchor for our whole conversation today. It says, strength turns into expectation, and expectation turns into exhaustion.
It's a cycle, a mechanism. It's not just a feeling. It's not just, oh, life is hard. It's a predictable systemic loop that so many people get caught in.
So if you're that person, the entrepreneur, the manager, the parent who feels like you are the one load-bearing wall in your family's house, we want you to stick with us.
And our promise for the next hour or so is that we're not just here to, validate your stress. We're not just going to sit here and say, you're tired.
You already know you're tired. You don't need us to tell you that.
Exactly. What we want to do is get into the mechanics of it. Why does being good at what you do so often lead to more work instead of, say, more freedom or more rewards? And most importantly, how do you start to redefine what strength means so that it's actually sustainable, so it doesn't end up crushing you?
Okay, let's get into it. Section 1. I've got this labeled in my notes as the anatomy of the trap.
That sounds appropriately ominous.
Well, it feels that way for a lot of people because the source makes this fantastic point right at the beginning. Becoming the strong one isn't a conscious choice. You don't apply for the job.
No. Nobody walks into a new company or a new relationship and announces, hello, for the next decade, I will be the designated carrier of all logistical and emotional burdens. Please direct your problems to me.
You'd run for the hills if someone said that.
You'd think they were insane, but the source points out that it happens anyway. It happens gradually. It's this slow, subtle creep. It's the classic boiling frog analogy, but for responsibility.
So walk us through that. How does that creep actually happen? Because I think you're right. Most people don't even realize they're in the pot until the water is already simmering.
It almost always starts with something the source alludes to as the competence curse.
The competence curse. I like that.
It's a phenomenon you see in, organizational psychology and family systems all the time.
Hmm.
It begins with one single, isolated incident of you being capable.
Okay, give me an example.
Let's say you're in a team meeting at work. A crisis erupts. Maybe a major client is furious, or a project deadline just got moved up by 2 weeks. The air gets tense.
Total panic mode. Everyone's looking down, avoiding eye contact, hoping someone else will speak up.
Right, it's that classic bystander effect. But you're different. You step into the void, you say, okay, let's calm down, here's a 3-point plan. You organize the necessary files, you draft the email to the client, you reprioritize the tasks, you handle it.
And in that moment, the initial reaction from everyone is overwhelmingly positive.
Oh, it's incredible. You're the hero. You get all this praise. Wow, thank you so much. You totally saved us. And that feels good. It gives you a shot of dopamine. We are, at our core, social creatures. We're wired to feel valuable to our tribe.
Being the savior feels like job security. It feels like you belong.
It feels like you matter. So the next time a mini crisis pops up, what do?
You do it again? Of course you do. It feels good to be the hero.
You do it again. But this is the crucial turning point that the source identifies. This is the pivot. Because you handled it well the first time, and because you did it without complaining or falling apart, the system around you learns something.
The system learns. What do you mean by the system?
The system is the group. It could be your corporate team, your friend group, your family. It's like a single organism, and every organism is hardwired to seek efficiency. It wants the easiest, fastest solution. And it just learned that you are the most efficient solution to that kind of problem.
So the next time that problem or a similar one comes up, the group's collective thought process changes.
Exactly. They stop thinking, oh no, a crisis, how do we as a group solve this? And they start thinking, where's Dave? Get Dave. Dave will know what to do.
This reminds me so much of a guy I used to work with. Let's call him Mark. He was in the marketing department, a brilliant writer, just, fantastic at his actual job.
Okay.
But one afternoon, the big office printer gets a horrible paper jam. You know the kind. Toner everywhere, blinking red lights, complete chaos.
The dreaded E74 error. I know it well.
Right. And Mark, he just wants to print his report. He's on a deadline. So he gets frustrated. He Googles the printer model. He opens up a side panel that no one knew existed, get his hands covered in toner, and he fixes it.
And he becomes the hero of the hour?
For that day, yes. High fives in the hallway. Mark, you're a lifesaver. You're a tech wizard. He just laughs it off.
But the system learned.
The system learned. Because 3 weeks later, the printer jams again. Now, does anyone call the office manager? Do they submit an IT support ticket like the official procedure dictates?
Of course not.
No. Someone just stands up from their desk and yells across the open plan office, "Hey, Mark, printer's jammed again."
And just like that, Mark's unofficial job title is now printer technician.
He's the printer guy.
Yeah.
His actual job is writing copy, but now he's also doing unpaid IT support. And that's a perfect small-scale example of what the source is talking about. It starts as a favor, a one-time act of problem solving, but it solidifies, it calcifies into a permanent, unwritten part of your job description.
And the source points out that this transition is so insidious because the social rewards start to change.
What do you mean they change?
Well, in the beginning, with the first printer jam, Mark got a lot of gratitude. Thanks, Mark. That's high-value social currency. But over time, as it becomes his job, the gratitude disappears.
It just becomes the baseline.
It becomes the baseline. People stop thanking you for doing it. The new normal is silence. The expectation is just there. And eventually, you reach a point where you get zero credit for fixing the printer, but you will absolutely get blamed if you don't fix it.
That shift is so brutal. The journey from, wow, thanks for doing that extra thing, to, hey, why isn't the printer fixed yet, Mark?
And that right there is the expectation phase of the cycle. The source breaks this whole process down into 3 really clear stages: strength, expectation, and then finally, exhaustion.
Let's really dig into those because I think seeing it as a process is helpful. So stage 1, strength.
Stage 1 is the honeymoon period. This is where you're demonstrating your high capacity. You're proving to everyone, and importantly to yourself, that you are that safe pair of hands. This builds your status. It builds trust. In a professional setting, this is often how you get noticed for a promotion. You're the fixer.
It feels good. You're building a reputation as someone who gets things done.
It feels great. But it's also where you start laying the tracks for the train that's going to run you over later.
Which brings us to stage 2, expectation.
This is the real danger zone. This is where your autonomy, your choice in the matter, is quietly taken away. When Mark first fixed that printer, it was his decision. He chose to do it.
He had agency.
He had total agency. In stage 2, that agency is gone. It's no longer a favor you're doing. It's a function people expect of you. The question, can you help with this, gets replaced by the assumption you will handle this.
And the source argues that this is where capable people end up carrying more simply because they can. It's almost a physical law.
It's like a law of organizational physics. It's not about fairness. It's not about what's in your job description. It's about efficiency and capacity. Water flows downhill, and work flows to the person least likely to complain or fail.
The path of least resistance.
It's always the path of least resistance. If you've proven you can handle a load of 100 pounds, and someone else has proven they can only handle 50, when a new 20-pound box shows up, who do you think they're going to give it to?
To the person who can handle 100 every time.
Every single time. Which leads us inevitably to stage 3, exhaustion.
And we need to be clear about what kind of exhaustion this is. This isn't just, oh, I pulled an all-nighter, I need a good weekend sleep.
No, it's much, much deeper than that. The exhaustion the source describes is almost a spiritual depletion. It's a corrosion of the soul.
Why is it so much deeper?
Because the output required to just maintain that baseline expectation, which, by the way, keeps creeping higher and higher because you keep proving you can meet it, that output eventually drains your reserve tank. You're not just running on your daily energy, you're burning through your emergency fuel.
And you're doing it just to stay at what is now considered normal.
Exactly. You're running a marathon at a sprinter's pace. But because the expectation is set at full power, you feel like you can't slow down.
And that's the real trap, isn't it? You try to slow down, you're not just taking a break. In the eyes of the system, you're breaking the unspoken contract.
You are. And this is where it gets really psychologically complex and, frankly, a bit tragic. The trap isn't just that other people have these expectations of you. The really dangerous part is that we internalize them. We start expecting it of ourselves.
We start to feel guilty if we don't carry the whole load.
It's worse than guilt. It becomes an identity crisis. If Mark, after the 10th time, finally says, you know what, I'm not fixing the printer. My job is marketing. Call IT. How does the rest of the office perceive him?
They see him as being difficult. Oh, Mark's got an attitude all of a sudden. He's not a team player anymore.
Right. Even though all he's doing is enforcing a perfectly reasonable boundary and trying to do his actual job, in the context of the established pattern, it feels like a betrayal to the group. It creates social friction.
So to break out of the cycle, you have to be willing to disappoint people.
You do. And if your entire sense of self-worth is tied up in being the dependable one, disappointing people feels like you're failing at your core identity. It feels like you're failing at being you.
Wow. That's a psychological bind that I think really explains why so many high achievers and entrepreneurs burn out. It's not that the work itself is too hard. It's that the social contract they've accidentally signed won't allow them to ever stop.
It's the performance punishment. The reward for great work is simply more work. And the punishment for trying to set a boundary is social disapproval. So what do most of us do? We just keep fixing the printer until we break.
This connects directly to another layer the source brings up, which I found so insightful. It takes us into the second part of our deep dive, the silence of the strong, and specifically something called the no complaint bias.
Oh, this is a huge piece of the puzzle. This explains why the cycle accelerates.
The source asks this question: why do people rely more on those who rarely complain? And at first that seems a little counterintuitive. You'd think logically, if I see someone is overloaded with work, I'd be more inclined to help them, not give them more.
You'd think so if humans were purely logical creatures, but we're not. We are governed by a desire to avoid friction. We are, at our core, cognitive misers. We want to spend the minimum amount of mental and emotional energy to get what we need.
Okay, break that down in this context.
All right, imagine you're a manager with a new task that needs doing, or your parent trying to get a chore done. You have two people you can ask for help. Let's call them person A and person B. Person A is what you might call the squeaky wheel. Every time you ask person A to do something, you know you're in for a production. There's a heavy sigh, there's an eye roll, there's a long 5-minute speech about how incredibly busy they already are.
They might do it in the end, but you have to work for it.
Yes, the transaction cost asking them is incredibly high. You have to emotionally brace yourself just to approach them about filing a simple report.
I know person A. I think we all know person A. And you're right, I avoid asking them for anything unless it's a life or death emergency. It's just not worth the emotional energy.
Exactly. You instinctively avoid the friction. Now, let's look at person B. That's our listener. You go to person B with the same task, and what's their response?
It's, sure, got it, no problem, consider it done.
Zero friction. Just a clean, simple, immediate sense of relief for you. Now, the next time a task comes up, who are you going to ask?
Person B, without a moment's hesitation. It's not even a conscious thought.
It's automatic. It's inevitable. But this creates a devastating feedback loop for person B. Because person B never voices their struggle, never sighs, never complains. The people around them make a critical and incorrect assumption.
They assume the load is light.
Oh, that's the absolute killer right there. Because I make it look easy, you assume it is easy for me.
That is so true. Competence looks so effortless from the outside.
There's a term for this. It's sometimes called the duck syndrome.
The duck syndrome. I haven't heard that one.
Think about a duck you see gliding across a pond. What do you see above the surface of the water?
It's just calm, graceful, serene. It looks like it's not even trying.
Exactly. It looks completely placid, not a feather out of place, but what's happening underneath the water where you can't see?
Those little feet are just paddling seriously.
Furiously. They're churning like a motor, working overtime, fighting the current, just to maintain that illusion of effortless grace on the surface. But the observer standing on the shore, they only see the glide.
So the observer thinks, hey, that duck doesn't look very busy. Let's give that duck some more work to do. Let's strap a little backpack onto the duck.
That is a perfect analogy. The duck's got it covered. Let's give the duck the heavy lifting. The profound danger of making it look easy is that you are inadvertently punishing yourself for your own proficiency.
The better you are at holding it all together,
the less help you will ever be offered.
Wow. That is such a harsh truth.
Yeah.
And it creates this impossible situation where it seems like the only way to get support is to actually start failing.
Or to perform failure, to make a big show of how stressed you are. But that feels inauthentic, even manipulative to the person who identifies as the strong one. So they don't do it. They just keep paddling harder and harder and harder until their legs give out.
And it's not just about the external tasks, is it? The source makes a point of mentioning the hidden pressure of always holding things together.
Yeah, we have to make a clear distinction here between the external pressure and the internal pressure. The external stuff is easy to see. It's deadlines, demands, kids' soccer practice schedules. It's logistical.
You can put it on a to-do list.
You can, but the internal pressure, that's the narrative. That's the story you're constantly telling yourself about your own value. It's the belief that I am the linchpin. I am the one thing holding this all together.
The belief that if I don't do it, chaos will break loose.
I think your analogy from earlier, the load-bearing wall, is the single best way to understand this.
It really clicked for me when I thought of it that way.
Go on, explain it again because it's so powerful.
Well, you look at a house, right? Most of the walls are just partition walls. You can knock one down, you can move it, you can paint it a weird color. It's messy, but the structural integrity of the house remains. The roof doesn't fall in. A partition wall can afford to have a bad day.
But the load-bearing wall...
The load-bearing wall has no such luxury. It cannot take a sick day. It must be solid, stable, and unmoving 247 for the entire life of the building. Right. It can't just decide, you know what, I'm feeling a little crumbly today. I think I'll take a mental health day.
Because if it does, the whole structure is compromised. The roof starts to sag. At worst, it collapses.
And that is exactly how so many of our listeners feel. They don't see themselves as just doing tasks. They feel that their very presence, their constant effort, is structurally integral to the survival of their family or their company. The pressure isn't just, I have a lot of work to do. The pressure is, if I show a single crack, everyone I care about will be crushed by the falling roof.
And when you believe the stakes are that high, when it feels existential, of course you don't ask for help. You don't ask for help because deep down, you don't believe anyone else is strong enough to hold the roof up. You've convinced yourself you're the only one who can.
Which is a direct path to a very specific and very acute form of loneliness. And that brings us perfectly into section 3, the emotional cost of all this.
The source has a great phrase for this. It calls it the emotional isolation behind competence.
We've all heard the phrase, it's lonely at the top. And we usually think of some high-powered CEO. But this is for anyone who is the designated strong one. So let's unpack the mechanics of that loneliness. Why does being the hero make you feel so alone? Logically, being the person everyone turns to should make you feel like the most connected person in the room.
It connects you, but it's a transactional connection. It's not an emotional one. It creates a one-way street for emotional traffic.
A one-way street. How so?
When you are perceived as the rock, As the stable one, people bring their problems to you. You become the container for their stress, their anxiety, their chaos. You absorb it all. But because you're the rock, there's an unspoken rule that you can't bring your problems to them.
Because rocks aren't supposed to crumble.
Precisely. The implicit social contract is you handle things. If you were to suddenly start sharing your own deep-seated anxieties or your doubts, you worry that it would destabilize everyone else who is leaning on you.
It's like being the pilot of an airplane during turbulence.
That is a fantastic comparison. Absolutely perfect.
The passengers are scared. They're looking to you for reassurance. If the pilot gets on the intercom and says, folks, to be honest, I'm having a full-blown panic attack up here and I'm not sure I can land this thing, what happens in the cabin?
Mass hysteria.
Utter panic. The passengers don't rush to the cockpit to offer a hug and a cup of tea. They scream. Their sense of safety is completely shattered.
Because their safety is entirely dependent on your perceived competence. So the strong one feels like that pilot. They think, I can't show my fear because everyone else's stability depends on me not being afraid. So what do? They swallow it. They suppress it.
And that self-imposed isolation is just, it's crushing. The source says it builds a wall around you, and I have to imagine that this makes truly intimate relationships incredibly difficult.
It can destroy them. Because real intimacy, real connection, is built on a foundation of vulnerability. And if your entire identity, your whole sense of self-worth, is built on being invulnerable, on being the fixer who never needs fixing, you literally can't be vulnerable. You can't let your partner, your best friend, see you when you're weak or scared.
So you end up performing. You perform strength even at home, in what should be your safest space.
And at the same time, because you're so good at this performance, others look at you and assume, oh, they've got this handled, so they don't even think to check in.
It's a double whammy. You don't reach out for fear of scaring them, and they don't reach in because they genuinely believe you don't need them to. You're left completely alone in your struggle.
Now, this is where the source makes what I think is the single most critical distinction in this entire discussion. It draws a very sharp line between two concepts that people, especially high performers, constantly confuse: resilience versus suppression.
This is huge. If you take one thing away from this deep dive today, listeners, this should be it.
I completely agree.
We hear the word resilience everywhere these days. It's a corporate buzzword. We need to foster a more resilient workforce.
It is. And it's usually used as a code word for toughness. It's used to mean be quiet and handle more pressure. But that's not what it is. The source defines true resilience as the ability to recover, to adapt, and to move forward after difficulty. The key part of that definition is that it acknowledges the difficulty.
It doesn't pretend the hit didn't happen.
No! Real resilience says, wow, that hurt. This is really hard. I am struggling right now, but I trust my ability to find a way through it. It integrates the pain into the experience.
Okay, so that's resilience. What about suppression?
Suppression is ignoring your needs. It's pushing down your emotions. It's pretending the difficulty doesn't even exist, all in the service of maintaining that outward image of strength. It is a fundamental dissociation from the reality of your stress.
It's the "this is fine" dog meme, sitting in the room that's on fire.
It is the perfect modern metaphor for suppression. And the core argument here from the experts is that a vast number of people who think they are being resilient are actually just masters of suppression. They think they're being strong, when in reality, they're just delaying the inevitable crash.
They believe they're being tough and stoic.
But suppression is not a sustainable strategy. It's a form of debt. You are borrowing energy and emotional capacity from your future self. It works in the short term, absolutely. If there's an acute crisis, suppression can be a very useful, even necessary tool.
Right. If your house is actually on fire, you suppress your fear and you get your family out. You don't stop to process your emotions in the hallway.
Exactly. You deal with the crisis first. But you cannot live in that crisis mode forever. Eventually, that debt you've been accumulating comes due, and the interest rates are brutal. That bill coming due, that's the exhaustion phase we talked about at the beginning.
I keep thinking of the check engine light in the car.
Yes. Go with that. It's perfect.
Yeah. True resilience is seeing that light come on, acknowledging it, pulling the car over when it's safe, popping the hood, figuring out what's wrong, maybe calling a mechanic, and actually fixing the problem. It's an inconvenience. It slows you down for a little while, but ultimately you fix the engine and you can complete your journey.
Correct.
Suppression is seeing that same check engine light come on and taking a small piece of black electrical tape and just sticking it over the light on the dashboard so you don't have to look at it anymore, and then you just keep driving.
That is it, 100%. And what is the inevitable outcome of that strategy?
A catastrophic breakdown.
The engine seizes, and it never happens at a convenient time. It's always on the side of a highway, in a rainstorm, at midnight, 100 miles from home. Ignoring the warning signs doesn't magically fix the engine. It just guarantees that when the breakdown happens, it will be bigger, more damaging, and far more costly.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem. We've laid out the anatomy of the trap, we've talked about the isolation, and we've highlighted the incredible danger of mistaking suppression for resilience. Now we have to talk about the fix. This moves us into our final section, redefining strength.
And the source gives us a very clear mission statement for this section. It says, strength isn't about carrying everything alone.
For the people listening, this requires a fundamental mindset shift, a complete paradigm shift. Because for the person who identifies as the strong one, the act of asking for help is coded in their brain as failure. It feels synonymous with weakness.
So we have to recode it. We have to strip the emotional baggage away from the concept. Asking for help isn't a moral failing. It's a logistical strategy. It's resource management.
I love that framing. A logistic strategy for sustainability. It sounds so much more objective and professional.
It is professional. If you were managing a factory and you saw that one of your key machines was constantly overheating and at risk of breaking down, you wouldn't say that machine was weak or too emotional.
No, I'd say I have a production bottleneck and a resource management problem.
Right. You'd say, we need to either reduce the load on this machine or bring another machine online to share the work. You have to start treating yourself with that same strategic detachment.
So even if you're a solopreneur or the head of your household, you have to think of yourself as a critical resource that needs to be managed.
Your personal energy, your physical, mental, and emotional energy is a finite resource. It is not a magical, endlessly regenerating well. True strength, sustainable strength, is about intelligently managing that resource so that it doesn't get depleted. If you run yourself into the ground until you burn out, you are of no use to your company, your family, or yourself.
So protecting your energy isn't selfish.
It's the opposite of selfish. It's profoundly strategic. It's the only way you can continue to support the system in the long run.
Okay, that makes sense intellectually. But let's get into the nitty-gritty, the mechanics of actually asking for help. The source touches on practical ways to ask for support without feeling weak. This is where I think most people get stuck. They know they should ask, but the words just won't come out. It feels too awkward.
It does. It feels like you're admitting defeat. But we can extrapolate some really actionable strategies from the source material. The first one is something we can call the capacity check.
A capacity check. What does that look like in a real conversation?
It's about proactively communicating your bandwidth before you hit the red zone. So instead of waiting until you're so overwhelmed that you snap or drop the ball, you use neutral, objective language. A new task comes your way, your boss asks you to take on another project, or your spouse asks you to plan the school fundraiser.
The new printer jam arrives.
The new printer jam arrives. Instead of just saying, okay, you pause and you say something like, I can absolutely take that on, but I want to be transparent that my current capacity is at about 90%. To do this well, something else on my plate will need to be deprioritized or delayed. Can we decide together what that should be?
Oh, that is very good. It's not a no. It's not I can't. It's here is the mathematical reality of my time and energy.
Precisely. It turns a subjective feeling of being overwhelmed into an objective conversation about prioritization. It forces the other person, your boss, your partner, to participate in the decision. It makes the trade-offs, which are normally invisible to them, completely visible.
I love that because often people dump tasks on you because they genuinely don't see the cost. This puts the cost right on the table. It puts the ball back in their court. You help me choose which ball gets dropped.
Exactly. And 9 times out of 10, the reaction will be, oh, I didn't realize you were that swamped. You know what? Don't worry about it. I can ask someone else. Or actually, that fundraiser isn't urgent. It can wait a month. You've reset the expectation without a conflict.
Okay, that's one tool. The source also implies another strategy, which is about delegating responsibility, not just tasks.
This one is huge, and it's especially hard for the perfectionists and control freaks listening to us right now.
I feel seen.
Most of us do. There's a massive difference between delegating a task and delegating responsibility. Delegating a task is saying, hey, can you go to the store and buy milk?
Okay.
But the mental load for that task is still on you. You're the one who had to check the fridge and realize you were out of milk. You're the one who has to remember to ask. You're the one who has to check later that it actually got done. You've just outsourced the legs, not the brain.
It's micromanagement, essentially. You're acting like you have help, but you're still carrying all the weight.
Right. Now contrast that with delegating responsibility. That sounds like this. You are now in charge of making sure we never run out of milk. Or you are responsible for breakfast for the kids every morning this week.
That feels terrifying.
It does. Because they might buy the wrong kind of milk. They might forget altogether. They might burn the toast. They might fail.
And my instinct is to just jump in and fix it before they fail, because it's easier and faster for me to just do it right the first time.
And that instinct is the very thing that keeps you trapped. This is the crucial leap of faith you have to take. You must allow other people the space to try and even to fail.
Oh, hard.
It's the hardest part, but it's the only way they learn. And more importantly, it's the only way you break the cycle where you are the only competent person in the system. By hoarding all the responsibility to ensure it's done right, you are accidentally infantilizing the people around you. You are preventing them from ever developing their own competence.
Wow. Okay, let me process that. My own strength is actually enabling their weakness.
In any system, yes, it creates a codependency. If you are always the one who dives to catch the ball, no one else ever learns how to catch. If you are always the one who fixes the printer, the rest of the office remains technologically helpless.
That really reframes it for me. You're not just dumping work on someone else. You're actively developing the capacity of your team or your family. You're building a more resilient system.
You are multiplying competence, not just being a single point of it.
And the final piece of this, which the source brings up, is the idea of normalizing struggle.
This brings us full circle back to the no complaint bias. If the reason people overload you is that you're silent, then the solution must involve breaking that silence. The source says we have to start communicating reality.
We have to break the stigma around what we call complaining.
And I think a powerful way to do that is to rephrase the word complaining in our own heads. Let's call it reporting.
Reporting, I like that.
Think about it. If you're a structural engineer inspecting a bridge and you see a hairline crack forming in a support beam, and you go to your boss and say, "Hey, I've identified a potential stress fracture here," are you complaining?
No, you're doing your job. You're reporting critical data. You're preventing a potential catastrophe.
Exactly. So when you, as the strong one, finally say to your team or your partner, "I need to report that I am feeling overwhelmed," or "This project load is becoming unsustainably heavy," you are not whining. You are not weak. You are reporting critical data about the health of the system. You are pointing to the crack in the bridge.
That frames it so differently. It's not an emotional outburst. It's a structural analysis.
It is. If people rely on you because you don't complain, then you must begin to communicate reality in order to change that pattern of reliance. And what's more, being the first person in a group to say, "This is really heavy," often gives everyone else permission to be honest about their own struggles, too.
It's actually a real leadership move when you think about it.
It's the ultimate leadership move. Strategic vulnerability doesn't signal weakness. It signals trust and authenticity. It shows that you're human, which makes you far more approachable and relatable. It makes the entire team stronger because you're all finally operating in reality, not in the shared illusion that everything is fine and effortless.
So to pull this all together, we've journeyed from that gradual creep of expectation, the slow boiling of the frog in the pot,
to the silent isolation that comes from competence and that duck syndrome of paddling furiously beneath a calm surface.
We've talked about that critical, life-changing difference between suppression, the black tape over the check engine light, and true, authentic resilience.
And we've ended with some practical mechanics for how to actually intervene, using capacity checks, delegating true responsibility, and reframing complaining as reporting.
It's a lot to take in, but when you break it down into a system like that, it feels less like a personal character flaw and more like a solvable problem.
It is a solvable problem, but it does require conscious intervention. That cycle strength turns into expectation, which turns into exhaustion. It won't stop on its own. You have to be the one to interrupt it.
On that note, I want to leave all of you with one final provocative thought to chew on this week. It's a thought experiment based on the core takeaway from all this source material.
Okay, let's hear it.
If you, right now, just stopped, if you stopped holding it all together, if you let go of the rope for just a second, would everything actually fall apart?
That's the terrifying question that keeps people in the trap.
It is. Or, and this is the important part, would it simply force the people around you to finally find their own footing, to develop their own strength.
Maybe the roof wouldn't actually collapse. Maybe someone else would finally step up and help hold it.
We want to encourage you to run a small experiment. Drop just one unnecessary weight this week, just one ball you're juggling that isn't mission critical. Don't be the one to fix the Wi-Fi. Let the awkward silence hang for 10 seconds in the family argument before you jump in. Just see what happens.
You might be surprised by how resourceful other people can be when they're finally given the chance. And you might finally give yourself a much-needed break.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
Take care of yourselves out there.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for spending this time with us on Coffee Break. If this conversation stayed with you, you can find more episodes here on the channel. Until next time, take care.